Hello everyone, I'm Mario Trentin, CEO at the PMO Global Alliance, and I've been working with PMOs for the last 20 years, and I've been through a lot of changes in project management. So we started with traditional project management, agile project management, hybrid approach, programs, portfolios. We see now big changes in project management that are affecting PMO professionals. As you are watching this presentation, for example, we see transformation offices, agile PMOs, value management offices, visual realization offices, and so many new concepts. And when we start to think about how project management is going to change in the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, we see that technology is going to play a very important role. So I'm going to talk in this presentation about the future of project management, and a key concept we have to discuss is the citizen developers revolution. So what is this? Citizen developer revolution. When we think about citizen developers, you know who a developer is. So developers are the ones who code and develop new software tools such as this one that we are using to watch this presentation. For example, cloud services, artificial intelligence, machine learning. You probably heard about all of this. And now more than ever, we know that it's necessary that the organization think about IT as a strategic piece, not only for the services provided by the organization, but also in the way we work, changing to remote work, virtual teams. So the citizen developer revolution, and we hear a lot about it. You know, not only the vendors for the platforms for that, but also trying to create frameworks and provide guidance to the people. For example, the PMI, the Project Management Institute, is talking a lot about citizen developers and providing assets, creating research based on that. Brightline Initiative and other organizations are also focusing on that. But before I explain the citizen developer revolution to you, and I'm going to provide some examples in this presentation and how you can implement this into your organization, we have to start with why. So let's start with why. Why do we need this revolution, the citizen developer revolution? The thing is, if you think about processes and people and tools, we have evolved a lot. We are very mature in project management methodologies and processes. We've been able to create a profession and train people, MBA courses, graduation courses, multiple certifications. So why do we need to focus on technology right now? Because what happened is that we invested a lot in the process. That's why we have the guidance and also best practices, IPMA, PMI, Axelos, Agile, many different tools, many different methodologies, interesting methodologies that we've been using along the way. So we evolved a lot. When we started project management 30 years ago, 50 years ago, as we started creating the first literature based on project management, disciplines, and also the courses, we evolved a lot here. We learned a lot. We started with waterfall and then all the guidance, and I believe we are doing very well in terms of processes. But when we go to the organizations, it's not that they do not have the processes. They have the processes, and sometimes people are not following the process. And then we have the processes and we have the people. We invested a lot in people as well. Many different trainings. We have online training. We have certifications, everything that you know, it's available everywhere. So if we have the processes in place, we have Agile Project Management, Discipline Agile, Prince2 Agile, all of this, and we have people, certified people, trained, graduation courses, all of that. Why are we still failing? So high fail rates in project management. Why is that? Because what happens is that the world is changing. You know that. You hear a lot about it. You know the VUCA world, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, all the changes we have in the organizational environment, in the external environment, in the internal environment, is changing the way we work. So when I think about my career, I started my career 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And then what you had is that you needed to manage your project, and then you would find guidance. And usually I was the project manager, and I had a full-time team working with me, co-located in physical spaces. And we brainstormed in getting requirements, in creating WPS, all of that. And then we get the project done, focusing only on that project. What happens now is that we have multiple projects, and project managers are managing more than one project. The team members are part-time. They are remote, distributed teams, sometimes virtual teams. So what's happening now is that if we do not invest in technology, then we won't be able to deal with this complexity, uncertainty, and adaptability. So it's true that if you have great people and you have a good process, you do not need any tool to manage the project. You just focus it on that. But when we think about a large number of projects, and when we think about multiple team members and all these distributed teams that I am mentioning, then things change. We have to take a look as a new perspective. How digital transformation is changing the way we work, the way we define and implement our project management offices, and also how this is going to impact the future of our profession as project managers. So citizen developers, who are the citizen developers anyway, and why do we need them? We need them because we need software tools. And I can see that very clearly in the organizations I've been working as a consultant or in my organization. So what happens usually is that we take many different inputs from the standards, from best practices and all of that, and then we create our own process. And when you have your process, project management processes, what happens is that you have intellectual property here. So with the organizations we've been working, they ask you to sign an NDA because then you're going to have access to the steps, to the templates, to how they manage their projects. And this is the recipe. So it's a prescription on how to manage projects successfully from that perspective of a particular organization. So this is very important. We define our processes. And once you define the processes, what happens? Then you train people. We train people, and then we coach people, we mentor people, we develop the skills and put in place the capabilities we have. And then you know what happens? You go to the market, find a tool, and what you do? You buy off-the-shelf tool. So you have a great process, you have very specific and skilled people, and you are going to buy the same software everyone else is buying. You're going to buy a specific on-premise software or cloud services, whatever it is, and then you are going to do all the customizations that you need so that you have the information you need, the process, the KPIs, the metrics, and all of that. So this is usually a very painful process if you've been through a project management implementation, project management software implementation, you know how it is. So we have all the requirements, all the needs, and you cannot get the tool to make or to deliver the results you want in your process. So some of the organizations develop their own solutions. And this is very costly and also time intensive. It takes a long time. And the other thing is that these are not flexible. So if you want to change your process, then you have to rebuild the tool usually if we think about the old way we develop tools. So what happens usually is that in this type of organizations, we have some people that they start creating other tools. So people create their own tools. What kind of tools? They create Excel spreadsheets, so their own tools. Create Excel spreadsheets. Sometimes they use other software or they try to combine and integrate different software because they cannot wait for the IT departments to develop a specific tool or to buy an expensive tool and to do all the customization. So these people, we, project managers, business analysts, business people, experts, specialists, without IT, so no IT, without knowledge from IT, we know about the process, we know about the problems we have to solve, and we need an IT solution. So it's been a nightmare in the last years, because what happens is that we are expecting, so we have research, and we are expecting that in the next 5 years, we are going to build more applications than we built in the last 40 years or in the last 50 years. Because the faster pace we have, we need an app to report working hours, for example. You need an app to take a picture of the product. You need an app, many different applications we need. So what's happening is that we have a very high demand for new application, and we have a shortage of IT people. It's expected also that we are going to need millions of developers. We have a talent gap, a big talent gap in software development, so we don't have enough people, so we have very few resources and scarce resources, and we still need to address that demand. How can we do that? This is when the citizen developer revolution comes into place. You've been hearing about this, and as I mentioned, there are some frameworks now, guidance, and what is that? This is the use of low code and no code. So what happens is that we can develop applications using no code, low code, some code, and hard code. So in the past, we only had the option of hard coding. You had to develop something, and then you would choose the best software development language. You know, you're going to use the React, Node.js, C#, whatever you want, and then combine a big number of developers, go through the architecting and build the software, deploy, test, and then service your application. This could take months. Sometimes it could even take years so that it would have the end result. So what's happening now is that we have no-code, low-code platforms in place, and this is the very important driver to the citizen developers revolution. And in a way, as I mentioned to you, we've been doing that in the past, but this was not organized. You had your spreadsheets, you have macros, VBAs, kind of different tools combined. But what was the problem with these people? People create their own software because they have to solve the problems. The problem here is that we have security issues. You have problems with data. You have also governance. You have very different aspects in the last years because of the general protection, data protection rules, and many other different aspects. When we're talking about a low-code, no-code platform, imagine that you have some rules, guidance, and governance, and then you can do whatever you want inside that particular platform. When we think about some of these platforms, Microsoft Power Platform, for example, we say that this is an idiot-proof solution, because what happens is that you don't have to be focused on security issues, on data leakage. You don't have to be worried about nothing related to this, because this is already taken care of by someone. When we think about serverless development or low-code platforms, you just have to know the logic, which means we can empower people. Empower who? Empower business analysts, empower project managers, empower business people in every different business areas. So business units needs. So what happens is that you, the one responsible for the process, you know the process and the intellectual properties in the process. We have the people, and then we want to automate that. We want to integrate this. We want to use technology so that we can empower people and extend our capabilities. When we think about project managers, and I've been seeing that in the last years, we've been working with a couple of companies and implementing this type of solutions, extend capabilities. That means as a project manager, our job is changing a lot. In the past, I used it to spend a lot of time creating reports, for example, talking to the stakeholders, and then taking care of documents, and none of this was automated. So now I have automated reports. What can I do with low-code platforms? I can get insights, and based on the insights, I can drive action, so insights, drive action, and then I can decide what I would like to automate. So automation, insights, action, and automations. So what happens now is that we have a whole new world of digital assistants, digital twins, project management assistants. We have historical information and machine learning on that, the use of artificial intelligence. So this is a really new world that we're living in, and this is just the beginning, the start of the citizen developer revolutions. And one of the key aspects I would like you to keep in mind in this first part of the presentation, and then I'll share other stories with you and show some of the applications we've been using to do that. But it is that the citizen developers, who are citizen developers? You are a citizen developer. I am a citizen developer. We have the knowledge about project management, agile project management. We have the knowledge about business analysis. We've been working with business unities. And the change, the mindset change we have to take care of right now is that in the past we have the business area, so the business, and then we had IT. IT had to understand the business so that IT could build any kind of applications if we wanted that. So what happens now is that the business is taking the new role, and IT is also taking a new role. What are these new roles? So the business can now develop their own solutions using low code, no code, or some code. And then IT is responsible for the governance, providing guidance, what you can solve with low code, what you cannot solve with low code and no code, and then extend whatever is needed using hard code and more advanced solutions. But we don't have to wait for this shortage in resources to meet our increasing demand related to software development, new applications, and all of that. And this is going to change the future of our profession as project managers. This is going to change the future of PMOs, because we don't need anymore those PMOs that are focused only on methodology, following templates, and auditing the projects. We don't need that. We need data-driven organizations. And data-driven organizations, that means we need software tools on that. I've always had in mind that people and processes come first. So we have people as the most important asset we have in the organization. And then we believe that if you have a great process and you have good people, you could do whatever you need. But now we are reaching a tipping point, and this is accelerated because of the COVID crisis. The pandemic we have in 2020 is changing the way we behave, the way we work, and it's going to be much more technology influence in the future. So what we need now is that everyone develop tech skills, tech savvy. When we think about tech savvy people, technology skills, and we think about project management as a skill for life, that you can organize your work and deliver the results you need, we have now a new skill for life, citizen development as a skill for life. Think about it and tell me if you are able to go on this revolution, and whatever you need, you are going to find many different resources for that. Let's take a look at some of these resources right now.
All right, so in the next part of this presentation, I would like to provide you some examples, some real life examples on how you can leverage a low code, no code platform. And of course, you can take a look at whatever other software tools are available to you. And the concept of citizen developers, this is what's really important, that we have this mindset shift. And as I mentioned, PMI is talking a lot about it, and all the other organizations, because we need flexible tools once we have flexible processes so that we can address the organizational needs that we have right now. So one of the things driving the business change and the business transformation, the digital transformation impacting the organizations, is related to budget constraints. So we have budget constraints, and it's very expensive to develop new software tools, for example. And on the other hand, we also have the time constraints, resource constraints, and maybe this is even most important because time to market, and also we need to change and be flexible. We have rising customer expectations. This is another very important topic here. And right now, most of the organizations are still using many process based on paper-based processes, physical process, in person, and manual work. Very sometimes rework, and we cannot track the information. We cannot be data-driven and make proper decisions because of that. We see new digital business models, and also the way we are working changed a lot. So we have much more people working from home right now, remote work, virtual teams. This is a new reality. The organizations are adapting to that. Customers are changing their behavior, and IT and business they have partnered in the past. So the IT departments, CIOs, they are very engaged with the organization as a whole. So in the last 5, 10 years, IT is strategic to the organizations. The problem now is that there's limited agility, there are limited resources, and we have a need for differentiation. So, as I mentioned before, the intellectual property is embedded into our processes in the organization, and you have the people, but then you cannot embed all this knowledge and all this intellectual property into the tools if you buy off the shelf tools. We also have technical skills shortage. There's a big talent gap, not only in IT, but in software development as a whole. And we are not able to meet the demand for new developers, and we won't be able to do that in the short future. And also, we have increasing concerns related to security and compliance, even more now that we are working from home and we have data protection laws and regulations. We have to be very careful in security and the problems we see in the organizations. So, when we take this into consideration, you can imagine the number of apps we have to develop. So 65% of the organizations report an app development backlog, and this backlog is just getting bigger. So it's increasing. We are going to build more apps in the next years than we did in the past decades. And 30% of the 37% of the organizations are still using paper to manage critical business process. And actually, this number might be even higher in some of the countries. And we have technical skills shortage. So 67% of the CIOs and tech leaders say IT skill shortages are preventing them from keeping up with the pace of change. So we don't have enough people. And that's why we are embracing low code productivity tool. So we can provide friction free cross business collaboration and communication experiences to drive creativity. We can also streamline productivity experiences and automate process. You probably heard about robot process automation, business process automation. And in the past, it looks like you had to hire a bunch of people to do that. And right now, you can do this on your own using a low code platform, for example, just dragging and dropping and using the logic. You already know the logic because you know the processes, you know the business needs. And this is going to empower all employees to become what we call citizen developers and solve their own business problems. And they know the business problems better than anyone else. So low code development platform technology, what is that? Low code platforms enable visual approach to building apps. You just drag and drop, as I mentioned, and you include something, you understand the logic, you might use some formulas, but you don't have to actually know how to code. You don't need any specific language, which empowers everyone, regardless whether they can code or not, to quickly bring their ideas into brilliant apps and to brilliant workflows, and also implementing innovations in your organization. In the future, Gartner estimates 65% of all app development will be low code by 2024. So within a short number of years, we're going to have majority of new apps or app development using low code. Why is that? Because it's cheaper, it's easier, it's faster. Of course, low code cannot solve all the problems, and then we can still extend low code platforms. We can still use some code, use hard code, and combine everything into a more complex solution. We have the rise of citizen developers, and by 2023, the number of citizen developers at enterprise will be at least 4 times the number of professional developers. And this is happening everywhere. So the organizations are investing a lot in training. You'll find new certifications related to local development, to citizen developers. And it's estimated that we are going to build 500 million new apps in the next 5 years. It's going to be a lot of new software. And we know that because everything is a software tool right now, and you need an app to go online shopping, to ask for a cab, and also to the business process, take care of inventory, report working hours, and so on. So the benefits of low-code development I was describing is that you can focus on innovation, focus on the processes, focus on intellectual property, and the rest is taken care of. You don't have to think about servers, you don't have to think about infrastructure, security. So everything is taken care of into a low-code platform. You can have increased agility. You can develop apps faster actually because you don't have to worry about these topics I just mentioned. And you also have cost savings. So cost savings is very interesting because then we can use prototypes, we can develop software tools, and we can be flexible in the use of these new software tools. You can grow your developers team and also add the citizen developers in all the business units, unrivaled collaboration. So it's really easy to develop an app in collaboration with other people, as we're going to see. You can have enhanced sites and also take advantage of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and more, and limitless potential for innovation. So embracing the low-code platform is going to enable you to become agile and innovative to speed delivery of services. You might be thinking right now that this is something for IT professionals, and actually, as I mentioned to you, the citizen developers are us. Project managers, PMO managers, business analysts, we can use modern data platforms with AI powered services to find and analyze information. For example, information about your customers, about your stakeholders, about your vendors, about whatever other topics, so that we can make better decisions. Leveraged by professional developers. If we need them, we are going to use them to automate repetitive parts of the DevOps cycle and scale through the citizen developers. Also to customize the solutions, which is very interesting. So it is for developers, it is for citizen developers, for everyone. The low code platform and the power platform is for all your data with no limits for innovation. A platform for all your data. You can do less, but still achieve more. It is fully managed with preset data models, common entities. You can use out of the box business logic and rules, role based security that is fully customizable to your business needs. So you can develop the apps and you don't have to worry about all these issues. You have unlimited integration with built in connectivity to more than 300 cloud services, and this is even growing as we're talking right now. You have new connectors and you have new database web APIs so that you can connect to first and third party applications and integrate everything into a single source of truth. You can streamline customer experience, you can streamline operational processes, invest in operational excellence. Even the PMOs can do that. And you can also use this as a platform for innovation because it's intuitive and easy to learn for citizen developers. That's why we see more and more people using that, even using this in the educational areas, in the nonprofits. So build apps with the market's most intuitive point and click approach to app design. You can just drag and drop, point and click, choose from a large selection of templates, or start from a blank canvas. You can reuse everything that you did before and have a closer to business problems collaboration on solving them. You can also extend and integrate and innovate. Combination of Power Apps with any other platforms and the Power Platform as a whole, and innovation for the agile. You're going to be able to outpace competitors by infusing your process automation with AI. Build and deploy, learn fast. Enhance agility and scale by extending the data. Which take us to another very interesting side effect. You can multiply your developer capabilities. Right now, if you're facing issues with your IT department because you do not have the capacity to answer or to address the increasing demand of the business areas, you can help your developers to focus on value add activities, and citizen developers can extend the solutions or build their own solutions. As you can see, this is very interesting because you have development capabilities, new features, and then you have the maintenance. So you can think about the whole process since the ideation using low code and then design, prototype, implement, deploy, and test and service your applications in a much easier way. Traditional app development inevitably leads to technical debt as solutions become more mature and require more and more maintenance. And also, these solutions are not flexible usually. With the Power Apps and the Power Platform significantly reduces technical debt over time, enabling automation of repetitive parts of the DevOps cycle, leveraging fully managed data platform, solution checker that enables faster identification and resolution of issues. And you also have admin in this platform, so you can take care of whatever aspects you need. The IT professionals are going to take care of that, so that the citizen developers, the users, they can play with their apps without any harm. So admin insights provide deep visibility into usage and performance applications. You can have analytics to track health, implementation metrics, and also personalize the insights and drive action with custom Power BI reports and Power Automate. What is the common data service? And I'm going to conclude with that. So you have APIs and you have security taken care of for you. You have built-in logic, built-in data models, built-in storage, and integration. So you already have authentication, authorization. You don't have to focus on that because it's already pre-built, and you can leverage the existing authentication, authorization, and auditing process, ensuring that compliance and security are addressed properly into your organization. Then you can take care of logic using calculated on roll-up fields, business rules, duplicate detection, plugins, jobs, workflows with pre-built models for that, although you can also develop your own. You have data, data modeling, reporting, data validation, the common data model. You can use storage. You don't have to worry about extending the capabilities or scaling. So as your app is going to need more storage or is going to need more performance, this is taken care of easily. So you have files and blobs, log files, semi-structured data, search and find, data lakes, and this is all are also taken care of. And you have integrations, so you can use events or webhooks, data export, and much more. So to conclude, you have to focus on the processes, just understand the processes and streamline our process, focus on understanding the problems and collecting requirements, eliciting the needs, and then you are going to be able to become a citizen developer and create your own apps as you go.
All right, so in the last piece of this presentation, I would like to give you some actionable advice on how to adopt the citizen development mindset and join the citizen developer revolutions, and also provide some guidance on how you can structure this into a process or into a change management project in your organization. So when we think about citizen developers again, I gave you some examples, and I believe that right now you understand the why, so why we need citizen developers, why we need to develop these capabilities ourselves. We are the citizen developers, project managers, the business analysts. So we need that because we have to build intellectual property embedded into the software. So embed the processes into the software. So we know the processes, we have all the capabilities, and then we need software, apps. And we are going to need a bunch of new apps, as you could see from the examples. And if you're going to research on that, we're going to build 500 million new apps. And that means in the next 5 years, we're going to build more than in the last 40 years we built software tools in the past. And you also see that Gartner is mentioning by 2024, I described this into the presentation, 65% and maybe 75% of all the software in the world were based on low code. And when we think about that, it is not that you have to develop or you hire new people with this citizen developer mindset. What we have to do is to develop these capabilities inside our organization. So develop new capabilities, and that means not only training, but also the mindset. You have to understand the ideation process, for example. What kind of tools can we solve? I've been doing this with some organizations, and one very interesting advice I can provide to you is that for business people, for the business analysts, sometimes for the project manager, from people with no IT knowledge, they find it very difficult to design, think, and ideate based on technology because they don't know what is possible. So when we think about ideation here, so this is the first step you have to take care of or to address so you can join the citizen developers revolution. So when we think about ideation processes, we have great tools and great methodologies such as design thinking and all the other methodologies based on design thinking. But what happens is that when you go into a workshop, a facilitation workshop, and then you ask people, what do you need? So I need a faster horse, for example. If you ask for people in the past, they wouldn't tell you that they needed a car, you know that. And why is that? Because they do have no knowledge about what is possible. It is not that they do not understand the problem, it's that they do not understand what other organizations are doing as benchmark. So in the ideation process, it's very important that you have a facilitator that understands citizen development. So it could be a professional developer, it could be a senior citizen developer focused on low code. You can find app makers, for example, if we can think about levels here. And then you have the architects, people who can understand what is possible to build. and also strategists. So think about operating models where you can use the full power of low code. You don't have to stick to simple solutions. Some people have this mindset, or maybe they do not understand correctly what low code is, and they say, you're going to talk about low code, no code, and people say, okay, this is for simple problems, it is not scalable, just small apps, simple apps. No, you can use it for very complex solutions, scalable solutions, and once you start building that, you have to be careful with the strategy, because it's great that we can prototype and every different business unity and the business areas, they are going to create their own apps, and that's okay. But we have to build something that is coherent to the organizational strategy. It's not just automate for automation's sake. You're automating this process, automating that one, and so on. If you're automating something that you shouldn't be doing, then you're not better off in automating that, So thinking about ideation and then understanding how you can design solutions. So design solutions based on the technology and also in the business knowledge. So here is where the rubber meets the road, You get the knowledge about the processes, the improvements, any obstacles, issues you have in the current situation, and then you ideate for the future situation. So in the ideation and in the design solution, you can use a bunch of tools, but what we want to do is to create a minimum viable product and think about ways that we can prototype this using low code. So if you think about it, what you're going to create in your organization, you're going to identify what are the customer journeys or the user journeys, and based on that journey, what would be the functions, what would be the most important aspects. And the interesting piece about the low-code revolution or the citizen developers revolution is that you can do this in a collaborative way. I can tell you from my own experience that we've been engaging people with zero IT knowledge, and the ramp-up curve, the learning curve, is very accelerated because of the use of, we're using low code. So we've been doing that with nonprofits, as I mentioned to you. I'm going to provide some examples here in the education piece and also in the organizations. The organizations, the private companies and government, so whatever organization in all shapes and sizes, they can benefit from adopting low code. So even the banking industry is using that, and all the other industries. But in a way, when we talk to the companies, to the private companies, to the organizations, some of them are resistant to low code yet. And that means you're losing a competitive edge, you're losing a competitive advantage. Be very careful when you do not study or you do not have deep knowledge on what is possible to do with low code. Because what happens is, in a way, I see we are in kind of a third revolution based on IT systems, technology revolution, and the digital transformation. So how can you understand that better? So in the past, let's say maybe 30 years ago, how did we build applications in the past? You have to build an app, and then you would have an app based on an operational system. You have apps based on Windows, Mac, Linux. It could be based on a server, on-premise server, something like this. And in the last years, since 2008, more or less, we have this journey to the cloud. Some people still do not understand what is the cloud, where are my files, where is everything that I have from my company. But the cloud revolution in the last 10 years, so 2008 until now, you have the journey to the cloud, and it's not only move the apps. Sometimes you have to refactor, rebuild, build from scratch so that you have cloud native applications. And in the cloud native applications, you have better performance, scalability. You have, you can address the business issues, the business needs with more flexibility and adaptability. And so in the first runtime environment, so the first runtime environment was the operational systems, and then the second runtime environment, cloud native applications. And what happens now is that we have a third runtime environment, which is platform based. So we have low code platforms, such as the Power Platform I just described it to you, which is a third runtime environment. You can build your applications. When you build your applications from scratch, that means you have to take care of everything, of security, login, authentication, database, scalability, all of that. Create your models from scratch, create your business rules from scratch. When you use the cloud, then at least the infrastructure is taken care of for you. It really depends if you're using software as a service, infrastructure as a service, but what happens is that you do not have to be worried about investing CapEx, capital investments in buying servers and then deploying the systems and servicing the systems, all of that. When you're using the cloud, you have flexibility and scalability. As you need more power, then you buy that as you need, so as a service. So here, a CapEx investment, and here, OpEx as a service. But you still needed to do all the hard work in developing the applications from scratch, using some of the tools you already have. And when we think about low code, you don't have to be focused even on the technical aspects. You do not need developer skills, you do not need a professional developer for that. So this is creating a whole new opportunity, and it's going to be a big change. It is a trend. Right now we are seeing that, and organizations are moving faster to this idea of low code, no code. And what you can do with that, I was describing some of the examples in the non-profits, for example, and now I would like to give you some advice and benchmark on how you can change your processes, your tools, and also rethink the way we as project managers and PMO professionals, the transformation offices or the vision realization offices, how we are more proactive in adding citizen developer skills into our organization. So one of the things I could witness during this pandemic is that we have even shorter resources right now. So there's an economic downturn, and we need to use our resources better, be more efficient, automate, and also be flexible, be scalable, because we have an economic downturn. But in a way, some of the industries are already recovering on that. And how can you build capability again? And the organizations are doing this through the low-code platforms. So, for example, we worked with a company a couple of weeks ago, in the beginning of the pandemic, actually a couple of months ago. So what happens is that they changed all their strategy, because their strategy was based on projects that happened in person, physically, in specific cities here in Brazil, for example. We helped them in the previous years in doing a long-term, in creating a long-term strategic plan, and then portfolio selection, prioritization. We implemented PPM tools, business intelligence tools, have all the projects, everything all set. And then when the pandemic hits, you have to cancel the projects, and the organization was very agile. So the board and the executives, although it's a large organization, they were able to make decisions fast, and they decided that they would redirect their resources to a whole new model. But then when they built this new model, the idea, they understood that they needed software for that, because they needed to reach the customer, they need servicing, field service, other stuff. And once they have this new business model in place, so the organization was very agile. What happens nowadays, as I mentioned to you, if we can create a new example here, is that because of the world changing faster in this VUCA world, digital transformation and all of that, the organizations are more and more adopting different strategic planning approaches. So in the past, what we did in strategic planning was that we created, a SWOT analysis, balance scorecard, and then you cascade all this strategy and objectives into departments and business units. Right now, this is not possible anymore because there is no stable strategy, there is no stable and long-term objectives. So in order to adapt, we have new frameworks for emergent strategies. And you have, for example, the Plan to Win book. You have ideas in Lean Startup and OKRs, all these different ideas right now. But then strategy is totally disconnected from execution because you define a flexible strategy and then you wait 1 month, 2 months, and nothing happens. Why nothing happens? Because strategy is disconnected from the execution. And this is disconnected not because of the processes and tools. Usually we have the process in place, and not because of the processes and people. Usually we have the people and the processes in place, but then this is not supported by integrated solutions. So you have a spreadsheet or you have whatever tool you're using at the strategic level, and this is not connected to the execution. So what we did with this organization is that we created the new strategy and the new model. Then we tried to buy off-the-shelf software. Nothing was available that we could use right away because you build the intellectual property into the process, as I mentioned to you, flexible processes and also adaptable and scalable processes. And because we didn't have any software, they decided that they would hire developers to do that. And then it would take 3 months or more. We were able to do, in the end, the same results using low code in 3 to 4 weeks. So we reduced the timing, the duration, the cost. But it's not only that. Some people are going to tell you that the citizen developer revolution is focused only on cost savings and also in speed and in innovation. But the truth is, we need this so that we are more agile organizations. You're hearing about organizational agility a lot. We know that there are some frameworks and this kind of stuff, but we need the tools that support that. And I'm going to make an analogy here so that you can understand better and think how you're going to implement all of this in your organization. There's a very simple process in every organization that I use as an example on digital transformation, citizen developers, the power of AI, artificial intelligence, and all of that. And this is the process of reporting work hours, So all of us, you had to report your hours. Probably you have to report hours right now, so working hours. If we think about working hours and shifts, if you think about this, maybe 20 years ago, how could you manage working hours and shifts? You have paper-based, and we have many processes paper-based still nowadays, as you see in the presentation. And so what happens is that you go to work, and then you have a paper, and then you add something to that paper. You put the paper there. I arrived today at 8 a.m., then I go out 5:30 p.m. and then I go out, so you have all of this. Imagine that you have 100. If you have 10 people, it's okay, it's no problem. Manual work, paper-based, it will be fine. But if you have 100 people, 1,000 people, then you collect all those cards and then you give to someone in the human resources. They get a card, they take notes, day 1, day 2, day 3, all days in the month, and then they add up the hours for this particular person. So he worked 150 hours a month, and the other guy worked 180, so you have overtime, and the other guy worked 120, so he didn't work all the hours we need. So you understand it's a very time-consuming process. You cannot get real-time information. You don't have the data. You have a lot of rework. You can do miscalculations here, so it's really bad. So what we did? We started using Excel spreadsheets. So Excel spreadsheets. And what happened? People did not report the hours correctly. They forget to use the physical card. And then they started using spreadsheets, Excel. So I just enter Monday, 8 a.m., 5 p.m., and then I use the same for all month. Nobody records daily. You don't record that you arrived at yesterday 8:30 and today 7:45. No, you just use the Excel spreadsheet. So when we ask the organizations the problems with the process, then they tell you it's the process. Let's create more rules, more steps, so that people report the hours correctly. So we do not need more processes. We do not need more steps for that. And they tell you we have to train the people. They are not reporting correctly, so you have a lot of errors and miscommunication and all of that, rework, because they are reporting incorrectly. So train people. It's so simple process. You don't need a lot of training for that. Why do you get so many errors? Because you're using the wrong tool. It's not supported by the tool. And then what the organizations are doing right now, you're using your digital information, for example, you're using a card or something like this, you're using, any of these tools. So when I arrive at the office, I don't have to focus on any of this. I just pass through the door, and then it's counting the time I'm working, and when I pass the door going home, then it's taken care of. So this is the thing we have to understand. It's a very simple process, and we try to overcomplicate in steps, and then we try to use solutions, software tools that are not adequate to that. And so my last advice to you is that you have to really rethink everything in your organization. It's not just a new shiny object. You have the technology, let's go after the technology, find low-code platforms, and then you are going to have everything. So it's not like that. What we have in this ideation process, and I oversimplify this, but what happens is that we need to focus on operational excellence. We have to review, we need new processes, new ways of work, and these new ways of work are going to be embedded into these tools, and you and your organization, you're going to gain a competitive edge, and more than competitive edge, you are going to get organizational agility. So we've been talking about organizational agility a lot. And when it comes to implementation, we are very far from what we could achieve to that. So that concludes my presentation, and thank you for your attention. You can connect with me through the conference app, and also find me in any of the social media. I'm going to be very happy to share more talks with you about the citizen developer revolution and how this impacts not only PMO professionals, project management professionals, business analysts, but this impacts the organizations as a whole, the society as a whole, a competitive edge to the organizations, to the countries adopting these new technologies, and also to the world, because we are going to find out in the end there is a big economic impact in all of that.